welcome. Here we are, Bob Hagel from First Pres, Luke Fodor from St. Luke's. We're delighted you joined us for this joint service between our two churches for the third Sunday of Easter. This is our pre-scheduled work we were going to do. We were going to have this be our Youth Sunday, and that's what we're going to do. This is an opportunity for us to kind of bring our kids to the forefront and allow them to be leading us in worship. We've been working together for this last year on our youth program, and we've called it
Sly Pig, St. Luke's Youth, and the Presbyterian Youth Group. We've been meeting for about 9 months together, and this is really the first time that we've ever worked in this way, and it's been a really wonderful thing for the youth, and also, honestly, for me. I think getting us together has helped broaden our horizons and expand what we know and what we can do, because together we truly are better. And one of the great experiences and one of the new things that First Pres is being a part of is this Youth Sunday that St. Luke's has been doing for several years. And so as you worship with us and with the youth, and as we worship together, we will be using the road to Emmaus. That's the story for today. And the youth have been talking about this story and getting ready for the last several months. And so what you're going to be hearing and experiencing is this story and its journey towards seeing things in a new way. So we welcome you on this journey with us.
Easter is not an event that has occurred, but an adventure that has begun. Not a place that we have visited, but the path on which we stand.
Today, we continue the journey, we re-enter the story, to explore our questions, to uncover our doubts, to face our nagging need.
We walk the paths of two who traveled a dusty road wrapped in confusion and despair. Two who shared the company of a stranger, voicing their pain, airing their fears, and in the listening, heard words of hope and promise, and in the eating, received true bread of life.
Today we re-enter the story with expectation that Christ will also reveal himself to us in sights and sounds, in words and symbols, on this journey with us.
Let us pray. Risen Christ, walk with us this day. Be our companion and guide. Be our teacher and friend. Be our host and servant, bringing your gifts of faith, peace, and hope, and deep joy. As always, amen.
Go ahead and go.
Holly, holly, holly. Holly, holly, holly. Holly, holly, holly.
On Sunday, the same day, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women found Jesus' tomb empty. Two of Jesus' followers were walking to the village of Emmaus, 7 miles out of Jerusalem. As they walked along, they were talking of Jesus' death, when suddenly Jesus himself came along and joined them and began walking beside them. But they didn't recognize him, for God kept them from it.
You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you so concerned about?
They stopped short, sadness written across their faces, and one of them, Cleopas, replied,
"You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about the terrible things that happened there last week."
What things?
The things that happened to Jesus, the man from Nazareth. He was a mighty prophet who did amazing miracles and preached powerful messages in the sight of God and everyone around. Our chief priests and authorities handed him over to be executed and crucified. In fact, we had been hoping that he was the one who would liberate all Israel and bring God's promises. On top of all of this, just this morning, the third day after the execution, some women in our group really shocked us. They went to see his tomb early this morning, but they didn't see his body anywhere. Then they came back and told us they did see something, a vision of heavenly messengers, and these messengers said that Jesus was alive. Some people in our group went to the tomb to check it out, and just as the woman had said, it was empty, but they didn't see Jesus.
Come on, men. Why are you being so foolish? Why are your hearts so sluggish when it comes to believing what the prophets have been saying all along? Didn't it have to be this way? Didn't the Anointed One have to experience these sufferings in order to come into his glory?
Then Jesus began with Moses and continued, prophet by prophet, explaining the meaning of the Hebrew Scriptures, showing how they were talking about the very things that had happened to Jesus.
Please don't go. Be our guest this evening. Yes, it's getting too late, and soon it'll be too dark to walk.
So he went home with them. As they sat down to eat, he asked God's blessing on the food, and they took a small loaf of bread and broke it, and was passing it over to them. At that instant, two things happened. Simultaneously, their eyes are suddenly opened, so they recognized him, and he instantly vanished, disappeared before their very eyes.
Amazing. Wasn't your heart strangely warmed while Jesus was talking to us on the road? Yes, I felt it coming clear as he explained the meaning of the Hebrew Scriptures.
Within the hour, they were on their way back to Jerusalem, all 7 miles, where the 11 disciples and the other followers of Jesus all gathered together. Before Cleopas and his companion can tell their story, the others have their own to tell.
The Lord has risen indeed.
It is true. He appeared to Peter.
Then the two from Emmaus told their own story of how Jesus had appeared to them as they were walking along the road, and their moment they recognized him and as he was breaking the bread.
So me being who I am, I crave physical and emotional closeness with other people. And this quarantine and this lockdown have kind of gotten in the way of especially the physical aspect of that. I can't go see my friends. I can't go up to them and give them a big hug. And it's impacted me a lot. What many of you probably know is I'm what's known as an extrovert. And I love being in big groups of people, and I love seeing people and being around people. And so this quarantine has been kind of weird because I can't do those things. I am stuck at home, and even though I have a very large family and I'm with them all the time, it's not quite the same. So what I think this quarantine has taught me is that the things that we take for granted are a lot more important to us than we realize at the time. And even though I can still keep contact with my friends over social media and FaceTime and calling and texting and all of that, it's just not quite the same as getting to see them in person every single day. So, in the road to Emmaus, I think that the disciples are kind of having a similar situation, especially the two that are walking home. So they have kind of taken for granted Jesus being in their lives. They were with him all the time. They went with him everywhere. They traveled with him, kind of like how when we're with our friends, we're with them at work, in school, outside, like we're with them all the time. So Jesus was very important to them and become a very important part of their lives that they hadn't realized until he wasn't there. So when he was taken away from them, the way our social interaction was taken away, it was like a moment where they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have him anymore because he's gone. And I think that kind of changed the way they view Jesus, like how this has changed the way we view being with our friends. And I feel like that has a lot to do with why when Jesus came back from, like when he was resurrected and he went to go see them and was walking on the road with them, they didn't recognize him originally. And even though he was telling the stories of all the prophets, and even though all of these different things happened, they didn't recognize him right away because they had kind of changed their perception of him when he was taken from them. So when they invited him into their house, and they were like, hey, why don't you come have something to eat with us? It's getting late. And he broke bread. And that was when they're like, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. Like, we know this man. And I think that relates to us a lot because when this quarantine ends, we're going to go out. And I think that at first, the social interaction is going to feel kind of weird, almost foreign, because we have not been able to interact with people face to face within 6 feet of each other for so long. And I think that once we get in, like, we will realize some old habits from hanging out with each other and we'll be like, oh my gosh, this is what I remember. This is what it was. Because I feel like key characteristics of different people, different relationships, are kind of what hold us together. And when those things or people are taken away from us and our perception is changed, we don't really see who they are anymore because we don't know them the way we used to. So, especially when like a life-changing event happens, you never know like how it's going to hit another person. So I think that this story actually really relates to where we're at right now. And I think that it's a really important story for us to read because they did realize that it was Jesus. And they did realize that there is kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel kind of scenario for us. And that, we're all going to be okay and we're going to make it through and it's going to be fine.
Who am I to say what any of this means? I have been sleepwalking since I was 14. Now as I write my song, I retrace my steps. Honestly, it's easier to let myself forget. Still I check my vital signs. Choked up, I realize I've been less than half myself for more than half my life. Wake up, fall in love again, wage war on gravity. There's so much worth fighting for. You'll see another domino falls. Either way, it looks like empathy to understand our sides, and I'm just trying to find myself through someone else's eyes.
Max, I know you said that sometimes music helps you be more connected to your emotions than even just words.
Yeah.
And I see why you chose that song in relationship to this gospel story, because this sense of the disciples kind of shuffling along, asleep to who they could be and who they could become. And it's spot on. I wonder if you've been thinking a little bit about this moment in the Easter season where you are kind of shuffling along a little bit through day in, day out, but then there's a whole new future that emerges from you because you're a senior and college is on the way.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about what this life looks like? What do you think is next?
I don't know. It's really, I think that's part of
this whole Easter story is that unknowingness, but that's what helps it feel so magical at the same time, is that we had no idea that something like this was planned or was coming. So I don't know what's going to happen with my future, but I'm willing to let what happens happen and to see it through.
And I think the joy of the story is that you're never walking alone, that God comes alongside of us and surprises us all along the ways. And if only we're awake to seeing those things, I think that we find God's presence. So I know wherever you go, that God will go with you and be right alongside the path with you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and go.
We pray for babies who are born during this time and grandparents who can't see their grandchildren.
We pray for those who are anxious or depressed.
We pray for teachers.
We pray for those in poverty and our neighbors. Today, I am standing in front of an abandoned grocery store. And if you look around, there aren't many places for kids to run around. And in the few grass fields, there's garbage, needles, glass, and uneven land to run. So today, I pray for those who are having difficulty getting food and for those who have no place safe to go.
Hello. Hi, how are you today?
I'm okay. Beep. Beep.
That'll be $463.22.
For the school administrators who keep us learning and keep us going through these hard times.
Hey, Mom. Hi, baby. What's going on?
Do we have any plans tonight?
Nope. Nothing concrete. What's up?
Well, my plans are concrete. Joe Fatapoose and a couple others are waiting outside. We're going to the mall.
What?
You heard me.
Manny, you can't go to the mall. We're social distancing.
Social distancing? Psh, fake news. Virus schmirus.
Virus, schmirus, Madeline.
Norma!
You can't go to the mall.
Yes, I can. There is a sale at Bath and Body. I gotta go.
I need help with this kid. I need to email Father Luke.
It's another day in the nursing home.
On three. 1, 2, 3.
Our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done
on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass against us.
and lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the glory,
forever and ever.
Amen. Excellent, guys.
Welcome to a segment that we're calling Sly Pig SGN. It was inspired by John Krasinski's YouTube channel called Some Good News, or SGN. We had a look at that and said, we can add some more letters. And so here we are. This is a part of the service where we would ordinarily have an offertory, an offering that we give up in sacrifice to God and to the church. And we were thinking about it, of course, since we're not gathered together, we were wondering how we could have an offertory in this moment. And I got thinking about a verse from Psalm 16, which talks about a sacrifice of thanksgiving. And I think about many different kinds of prayer. And there's the kind of prayer where we can tell God exactly how we're feeling, our fears, our frustrations, our anger, everything. And there's another kind of prayer that is the sacrifice of thanksgiving. Maybe we don't really feel like giving thanks, or maybe we do. But taking time in every moment to notice what we're grateful for and to give thanks to God for that. And you've probably already noticed that our youth are some of our good news, our great news. You can see that already. And it's been such an amazing year watching them grow in faith and questions and being vulnerable and sharing and making connections. Our youth are such great news. And we want to share that with you. And we also ask them to think about what their good news is. And so we'd like to begin with some of our really caring kids. Here you can see Cyrus is hard at work making masks for others to share and to keep people safe and healthy. And here's some of the other ways that our youth are caring for their loved ones, for pets, for one another, for the world.
Some good news is that I've never spent as much time with my family until now.
For my some good news, I'm going to talk about my cat a little bit. His name is Smokey. He's a rescue cat, and I got him right before all this COVID-19 and quarantine stuff happened.
That because of quarantine, all the canals are cleaner, and animal life is coming back like dolphins and fish.
Oh, wait, can I add something? Yes. Okay, so going from caring to creative, we know God as a creator God. And our children and youth reflect that every day in their joy in video making and acting and creativity and art. And they've been hard at work doing those very things, reflecting the love of our Creator God in their own artwork and filming and creativity and imagination.
And action. My some good news is not yet! Sorry! Anyway, my some good news is that I have a lot more time to shoot video and edit it together.
And here's some good news. The sun's out and it's getting warmer, so I can finally go back outside and play soccer more.
Bananas in pajamas are coming down the stairs. Bananas in pajamas are coming down in pairs. Bananas in pajamas are chasing teddy bears. 'Cause on Tuesdays they all try to catch them unawares.
Here's some good news. During the quarantine, I learned how to do this. Go now as those who have met with Christ in this day.
Go now as those whose hearts burned within them, as the scriptures were explained.
Go now as those who have been touched by resurrection.
Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you someday in person. We hope that you experienced God's presence as we worship together.
Well, my friends, life is short, and we do not have too much time to gladden the hearts of those who journey with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you now and remain forever. Amen.
I will fight